Hare Krishna. Welcome, dear devotees. Thank you all so much for being here. Just have a quick announcement to make while we're setting up for class. I want to welcome some guests we have here for the weekend. So the Krishna House has a program where they do a monk for the weekend. And so we've got Lisette, Nikhil, and Luke with us for the weekend. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And we're very grateful to have you with us. Haribo.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. All right, welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Welcome to all of you. Happy Saturday. We're going to start with a song and invocation to Krishna, talking about Krishna's activities, Krishna's the place where he grew up and things like that. So, sweet little song we can all sing. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Alright, we're now going to do an invocation to the Supreme Lord. We understand that God and His Word are absolute, so when we speak about God or hear God's words, we offer our respects to Him. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We can recite these together. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasha prayesha bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. Loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. All right, welcome everyone. So, as we said earlier, today we'll be speaking from the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on the 4th canto, part 1. We're on chapter 3, and we're going to be reading from text 3. But before I get there, I was thinking it'd be nice we can have some context on what's been happening in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Some of us are kind of just dropped in the middle of this very dramatic story, so it's nice to have some context. The Srimad Bhagavatam, it's a scripture which speaks on two things. It speaks on God, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it speaks on Krishna's devotees. So those are the two topics of the Bhagavatam. We're either going to be talking about Krishna himself, Krishna directly, or we're going to be talking about stories of Krishna's servants, God's servants, who come to this world and things like that. And so the story we're talking about specifically is of Lord Shiva, this section. And the thing with Srimad Bhagavatam is that we're here to understand kind of the moral. We're here to understand the essence. So all these stories, they're not simply just stories, they're not just something entertaining, but there's something that we are meant to learn something very deep about. So, the story, it's important, but the main thing we're going to be looking for is the main message that Krishna is trying to teach us through presenting these stories. So, do we have the mic? The microphone? We'll just do a quick recap over what we read these past few days.
Hare Krishna.
Is anyone able to read? So we're going to be talking about a character named Daksha, and we'll read about him. But basically, he's a very important personality in the universe. He's the son of the creator of the universe, Brahma. And so this story we're going to read about, it's giving us insight on how pride can be very dangerous to our spiritual life and how it can be dangerous just in general. Can someone read text 5? Would you like to read the first one? Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see.
I can't really zoom in. Let's see. Or,
When
start.
when Daksha, the leader of the Prajapatis, entered the assembly, his personal bodily luster as bright as the effulgence of the sun. The entire assembly was illuminated, and all the assembled personalities become insignificant in his presence.
Okay, so Daksha, he enters this grand gathering of many elevated, powerful beings, and he himself, he's very powerful, and he's glowing this effulgence. When he comes in, we'll read what they do next. Read text 6.
Influenced by his personal bodily luster, all the fire gods and other participants in that great assembly, with the exceptions of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, gave up their own sitting places and stood in respect for Daksha.
Okay, you can read the next one.
Daksha was adequately welcomed by the president of the great assembly, Lord Brahma, after offering. Lord Brahma. After offering Lord Brahma respect, Daksha, by the order of Lord Brahma, properly took his seat.
All right.
Before taking his seat, however, Daksha was very much offended to see Lord Shiva sitting and not showing him any respect. At that time, Daksha became greatly angry, and his eyes glowing, he began to speak very strongly against Lord Shiva.
Okay. Have you guys ever experienced this before, where you feel like you should be respected, you feel like people are not paying attention to you, especially, when you're like in a big position, I'm an important person, the whole world revolves around me, and then when something that's supposed to be revolving around you isn't doing its thing, you get very angry, and we'll see what he says. His next text. So this is now Daksha speaking to Lord Shiva. And I didn't want to put all of it here because it's kind of mean and we don't need to read all that. But Kaylee, you can read it.
He has already accepted himself as my subordinate by marrying my daughter in the presence of fire and brahmanas. He has married my daughter who is equal to Gayatri and has pretended to be just like an honest person.
Okay, so the context is that Shiva, he married Daksha's daughter. And so because he married Daksha's daughter, Daksha sees himself in a position superior to him as father-in-law. And now he's going to continue. Prema, do you want to read?
He has eyes like a monkey's, yet he has married my daughter, whose eyes are just like those of a deer cub. Nevertheless, he did not stand up to receive me, nor did he think it fit to welcome me with sweet words.
I had no desire to give up my daughter give my daughter to this person who has broken all rules of civility because of not observing the required rules and regulations. He is impure, but I have obliged to hand over my daughter to him just as one teaches the message of the Vedas to a Sudra.
Okay, so Daksha is speaking these very harsh words against Shiva, and he actually goes on further to curse him. And you can imagine how inappropriate this would be in a huge assembly of people, your father's there, and different relatives of yours. It's kind of like a big family gathering there. And then you just start blasting this person in front of everyone. And it's a very dramatic scene that's described in the chapter. Everyone's kind of appalled, and then this fight breaks out where Shiva's people are cursing Daksha's people, and Daksha's people are cursing Shiva's people. But the whole time Shiva, he's peaceful, he's unaffected because, let's see, we'll read. This is a purport, this is from Srila Prabhupada's purport in the next chapter regarding why Shiva didn't receive Daksha when he entered the room, why he didn't stand up. Someone like to read?
The Lord says in Srimad Bhagavatam that offering respect to his devotees is more valuable than offering respect to him. Devotees do not identify with the body. So offering respect to a Vaishnava means offering respect to Vishnu. It is stated also that as a matter of etiquette, as soon as one sees a Vaishnava, one must immediately offer him respect, indicating the super soul sitting within. A Vaishnava sees the body as a temple of Vishnu. Since Lord Shiva had already offered respect to the super soul in the Krishna consciousness, offering respect to Daksha, who identified with his body, was already performed. There was no need to offer respect to his body, for that is not a direct by any Vedic injunction.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is kind of explaining. We see a lot in the temple where we're offering obeisances a lot, and especially to other devotees, we're offering obeisances to each other. And yes, we're honoring each other, but primarily we're actually giving our obeisances to God within everyone. We understand that Krishna is seated within every living entity's heart. He's seated within, anyone on the street. Bhagavad Gita says that whether they're a cow, dog, elephant, a person, like a scholar, God is within all of their hearts, and they all deserve respect in that way. And so Shiva, he was meditating, and he was just totally fixed on Krishna. He was totally meditating on Krishna. And so Daksha, he didn't understand this. He didn't understand what Shiva was doing. And this is very common when we find ourselves in these heated situations, is that we don't seek to understand. We seek to, the first thing we do is we judge. We'd never ask, oh, why didn't you stand up to receive me? Oh, why, you spoke in this way and it hurt me. Why did you speak like that? But usually our first inclination is we just go straight to you did this because you are envious and you. So we're seeing how pride, it can make us be so self-centered that we don't even acknowledge if anyone else in the room is doing anything, It's, oh, who cares what Shiva was doing? All I know is that he was not offering obeisances to me when I walked in. We can continue. Someone can read.
The sage Maitreya continued. Thus Daksha, seeing Lord Shiva sitting as if against him, washed his hands and mouth and cursed him in the following words.
Okay, we can continue. But yeah, this is a nice little painting of Daksha just chewing out Shiva.
The demigods are eligible to share in the oblations of sacrifice, but Lord Shiva, who is the lowest of all the demigods, should not have a share.
The sage Maitreya said such cursing and conversing was going to on between Lord Shiva's followers and party of Daksha and Lord Shiva became very morose. Not saying anything, he left and ran off the sacrifice, followed by his disciples.
Okay, and so that takes us to our verse for today. Oh wait, we still have one more slide. Sorry. 3 more verses and then our verse for today. You can read.
Maitreya continued, in this manner, the tension between the father-in-law and son-in-law, Daksha and Lord Shiva, continued for a considerably long period.
When Lord Brahma appointed Daksha the chief of all the Prajapatis, the progenitors of population, Daksha became very much puffed up.
You can just read another.
Daksha began a sacrifice named Vajapaya, and he became excessively confident of his support by Lord Brahma. He then performed another great sacrifice named Brihaspati Sava.
All right, so if you don't really know what they mean by sacrifice, in Vedic culture there are like these rituals, and a fire sacrifice is where you have this fire and you say these mantras and you offer things into the fire like ghee and grains and gold and things like that. This was actually practiced in previous ages, so thousands of years ago, and it's said that in this current age of Kali, it's not practical to do these fire sacrifices anymore. And actually, there's not even people qualified to do these fire sacrifices in the modern day. But we can imagine that he's this great personality and he's doing the sacrifice, but what is the point of all sacrifice? Does anyone know what Krishna says is the goal of all sacrifices? Which verse? Narottam? Yeah. So Yagya, Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam, he's the benefactor of all these sacrifices. So Daksha, we understand Daksha is actually a servant of God. He's a religious person. Daksha, he's a demigod, but he's still doing this sacrifice to worship Vishnu. So we're going to hear in the purport by Srila Prabhupada, but first we can recite the verse. Ishtva savajapayena Brahma mishtan abhibhuyacha Brihaspati savam nama Samarebhe katutamam. Please chant. Ishva savajapayena Ishtana vibhuyacha Sati savam nama one more. Ishvasva. Okay, we can read the synonyms. So what we just recited, we see above there's
are eligible to participate in yagyas and share the oblations, but Daksha wanted to avoid them. All sacrifices are intended to pacify Lord Vishnu, but Lord Vishnu includes all his devotees. Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the other demigods are all obedient servant of Lord Vishnu. Therefore, Lord Vishnu is never satisfied without them. But Daksha, being puffed up with his power, wanted to deprive Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva of participation in the sacrifice, understanding that if one satisfies Vishnu, it is not necessary to satisfy his followers. But that is not the process. Vishnu wants his followers to be satisfied first. Lord Krishna says, Mad Bhakta Puja Bhyadika. The worship of my devotees is better than worship of me. Similarly, in the Shiva Purana, it is stated that the best mode of worship is to offer oblations to Vishnu. But better than that is to worship the devotees of Krishna. Thus, Daksha's determination to neglect Lord Shiva in the sacrifices was not fitting.
All right, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, I think this is a quite relevant topic in this modern day world. The amazing thing about Srimad Bhagavatam is that you can, this is taking place thousands and thousands of years ago, but still it's very practical to today's day and age. I was thinking we see a lot this common saying that, oh, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. And we're kind of seeing here with Daksha kind of how that came about or why people identify with that. Because Daksha is the prime example of religious but not spiritual. So he's acting in this way to please God. He's acting in this way, or not even to please God. He's acting in a way to please himself through God. And so he's doing these religious activities, but he's not acting spiritually in that he's neglecting God's servants. He's neglecting the devotees. We see in modern day times that often people can sometimes use religion as a weapon. You know, they use scripture as a way to kind of punish people, put people down, a way to demonize people even. And that has created in the modern day culture a very prominent feeling that I want to be spiritual, I want to have a connection with God, but I don't want to be religious. Because we see in history, there's so many instances of people being burned by religion. We see so many huge wars based off of, I'm this kind of Christian, you're that kind of Christian, we're not cool. But how do you think God would react if he saw that? It's obviously, he's stating right here that Krishna, he actually prefers that we first tend to the needs of his devotees before we even try to worship him. We're seeing that better than worshiping God directly even is to worship God's servants. Srila Prabhupada makes this analogy that there's a very powerful man walking his dog on the street. And so how do you get close to the man? You know, he's like the president, let's say. So you might say, oh, he's so far, you know, how could I ever talk to him? But if you first get his dog to like you, then God will pay attention to you, you know. If you give his dog some treats, then the president's going to be like, oh, wow, like, my dog likes you? Okay, I like you too. And God is similar in that when we give this respect, or first we care to the needs of God's devotees, then we worship God, that's actually what pleases him most. I was thinking in our International Society for Krishna Consciousness, in our day-to-day lives, we're also in a similar position of Daksha. Sometimes we get positions, sometimes we get services, sometimes, you know, I'm the boss of this. I'm the restaurant manager. I'm the Krishna house manager. I'm the Pujari department manager. And my service is the most important service in this temple. I have the most pleasing service to Srila Prabhupada, and ISKCON needs me the most. And so it's a very subtle thing, and I'm not accusing anyone of it, because I know it's definitely in me that sometimes pride will slip in to our spiritual life. And we can see what happens is that any attempt we make to please God with that pride there, it actually is nullified. It's actually just becomes a way to serve ourselves, a way to look like a better devotee, a way to present myself as a more religious person, a more spiritual person. But inside, what's the motive? The motive is, I want people to look at me. I want people to appreciate me. So, it's encouraged that actually more important than our own service is that we act in a way that's helpful to others. I was talking to Parameshwar Prabhu. If you guys remember, he was here last week. And he said on the Sankirtan team, Sankirtan team is like a group of men who live in a van, and they travel around the world, really, and they give spiritual books to people. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. And you can imagine in a van like that, it's like a very tight space, and they're all sleeping in the van, and they're kind of button shoulders and stuff. And he made this point that things were getting done. Things were getting done, but people were still getting hurt. People were getting upset with each other. And so even though maybe you're ticking all your boxes, okay, I got this many books out, and we're hitting all these cities, but the devotees were still not having nice relationships. So they made this kind of reform thing where they say, above everything else, we're going to act in a way that is in the best long-term interest of each other's spiritual lives. And it's very powerful that we learn to put people before projects, people before our own service. I remember one time I was in Toronto, and they gave me this tiny job, and you get puffed up over the smallest thing, but my job was to make sure the temple was clean. So I had to work with the janitor and make sure everything was clean. But there was this one devotee who was kind of obstructing me from my service, and I was like, actually, because my service wasn't being done properly, Bhakti Marg Swami, I see him mopping the floors, and I'm just so embarrassed. I'm like, oh my God. These senior devotees are picking up because I can't do this properly. So I was getting heated, and I was like, okay, I'm going to talk to this devotee who's stopping me from doing my service properly, and I'm just going to tell him how it is, But then someone made this point to me that what would be more pleasing to Bhakti Marg Swami, or what would be more pleasing to the devotees, what would be more pleasing to Krishna? Would it be more pleasing that the floor is clean, or that you have a nice relationship with this devotee, that you have a nice relationship with this person? I was thinking for a second, that's so true, in that we might get things done, we might get our service done, but if it's at the expense of our relationship with others, then Krishna is not going to be pleased ultimately. Krishna can have anyone clean the floor. Krishna can have anyone dress the deities. Krishna can have anyone give class. So what's he really looking for? He's looking for us to not just get a task done. He's looking at us so that we can grow and mature and learn how to work with other devotees. Srila Prabhupada said, your love for me will be shown by how you cooperate. That's more important than anything else. Who cares if, we're getting this much money in, or if we're not cooperating together, then it's just a mess. Even if you have the most beautiful temple, or the best, best everything, if still the internals are not there, it's just going to eventually break the externals too. So it's 8:14. I'm kind of wrapping up a little early. I know I kind of blazed through a lot, but I'd like to have some discussion or any points, any times you have experienced where either you've put service before someone else or you put someone else before your service, or if you've had experiences in life in other faiths where you can see that they're putting the externals before the internals, or any comments, reflections. So, Mother Kunti?
Questions or comments? Okay, and thank you. Very laser sharp class. Very quick, but very sharp and nicely said. Thank you. So you were saying about offering obeisances, and that's an interesting thing that you said. Yes, very often we hear that when people offer pranam, or actually bow down, child pose on the floor, or dandavats, that they're simply offering that to the Lord in the heart, to the Paramatma. However, I beg to differ. Mm-hmm. The actual truth is it's both. Mm-hmm. It's to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and to the devotee who's on the path of full surrender. So it's actually both.
Thank you. Yes. Very true. That it's kind of the whole theme of the class that you can't offer respects to God without offering respects to God's servants. So if we're trying to when I offered obeisances to you, Prabhu, I was only offering obeisances to your super soul. You know, that's not the mood we're supposed to have. If you're ever mad at someone, you can pull that out. You get into an argument, you offer obeisances, and you're like, just by the way, that was to your super soul, not to you. Nandabraj, did you have something?
I was really appreciating this point that to please Krishna the most is to appreciate his devotee. And it's kind of overwhelming because, as you were talking about, we get into positions and we become puffed up and we think that, oh, everybody's, my tool for me to do my service. But Krishna is showing by example that actually how much he cares about other people, so much more that he likes it, enjoys it more when we are worshiping or appreciating his devotees. And I was thinking, we start the day off in the morning. And what do we do the first thing? We say glorification to the spiritual master. It's not even that we start with the glorification of Krishna. We start with the glorification of the spiritual master. Why? Because it's so pleasing to Krishna. And then we enter the temple. And the first thing we do is pay respects to the spiritual master and the devotees. We don't even pay our respects to Krishna first because we're trying to please Krishna. And that's what pleases him most. And it's almost like bewildering, in some senses. But when you really grasp that, like you're saying, that this is really pleasing Krishna so much, kind of calms us down and says, oh, like you're saying, how we need to respect each other and appreciate each other. So I was really appreciating this point. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Great point.
Yeah, very nice class. There was a few things that really stood out to me. I think the point that you shared, that Parameshwar Prabhu told you about how they were serving together and they came to this point of, we're going to function or do things in a way that's going to be for the long-term benefit of all of our Krishna consciousness, all of our spiritual journeys. And I just really appreciate that point. It's, if we did that in everything that we do, how wonderful that could be. And it's, and it's tied in, I think, with so like last Saturday is a personal example for me. You were talking about, people before projects or before service. And we were doing cinnamon rolls. And there was one tray of cinnamon rolls, but I didn't know that there was another tray and a half, right? And so a devotee was taking some cinnamon rolls because they needed to leave, and they were kind of packing some up, and I got a little concerned that not everybody would get a cinnamon roll, and I kind of was like, no, don't take more, but it was a little harsh in the way I said it, and I felt bad afterwards and apologized, and they were okay. But And then, lo and behold, another tray and a half of cinnamon rolls comes up, right? So there was no need for me to even say anything. And there was plenty of cinnamon rolls. We were able to give them a box of cinnamon rolls afterwards. But yeah, just that, getting caught up in those moments and thinking that this is more important than the individual that's right in front of me, and doing something in a way that discourages them. And then there was one other thing you said, but I'm drawing a blank now. But yeah, wonderful class. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice point. Maybe Draupadi, and then if you guys have anything to.
I just wanted to add that in Houston, when I had the service of ashram leader, everything would be going like smoothly and everything was going to go good. And then I'd do something that wasn't very personal or wasn't very like putting the person over the project, and everything would fall apart. Everything that was going smoothly would fall apart. And then other times when everything was in complete chaos, nothing was going to work, I was like, we're totally doomed. And it was going to be very hard for me, or like embarrassing for me, or something like that. And then I put the person before, everything just came back together and worked perfectly, better than it ever could have been. And that was the difference that I noticed when I put others before myself or the project, or when I didn't. That was the difference of whether it succeeded or not. When Krishna just arranged everything, because he's arranging everything. And if he's like, oh, you weren't so nice to my devotee, I'll teach you a little lesson here. Yeah. Or, oh, you were so kind, I'll give you your reward.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing. We can see the miracles that Krishna is able to do when we cooperate. He can do anything, He doesn't need us to manage so perfectly that everything works. I was thinking even in the Bhagavatam, there's the story of the Prachetas, and they actually saw God. They were these yogis doing austerities and things like that. And it's described that the only reason that, not the only reason, but the primary reason that Krishna came before them, that God appeared personally before them, is because he was so impressed by how they were cooperating. They were all brothers and they were cooperating so well. So thank you for that point. Narottam and Prema.
I just I remember what the last thing was. It'll be quick, but in class often it's quoted how Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, to please Krishna, you want to please your spiritual master first, and to please your spiritual master, you have to please Krishna first. But then he said, to please Guru and Krishna, you please the devotees first. So it kind of goes along with the, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I feel that these, not only in spiritual life, but these tendencies also show in our personal relationships, family, friendships, where many times we may give more importance to a thing or, a particular situation more to the person. Someone accidentally drops your phone, someone accidentally, closes the door of your car too loud, and then you blurt out on them, you shout on them, but it's like, giving more importance to a thing or to a particular belonging more to the person, It's like we don't take a moment to think, to pause that, is this good for my relationship with that person? How important is this to, yeah, I was just thinking.
Yeah, and it's a symptom of self-centeredness that when one tiny little planet is off your orbit, you're like, you just blam, Oh, you didn't close the door the way I wanted you to? I don't care who you are. I'm going to just blast you regardless. So, Prema?
Hare Krishna. Thank you for class. It's been edifying. I'm wondering, because it seems like we're making a very solid point here, and it almost seems like it could be even black and white. Like in all situations, in all circumstances, this is how we should always put the person first and the personal relationship first. And I don't disagree, but I'm wondering if there's ever times when, in this moment, I need to put this situation first and then go back and make sure that the person is okay later. Like, how do we know when it actually is appropriate to stand firm in, a decision that you have to make or something that you have to do, even if it seems to lack that personal touch.
Yeah,
externally.
That's a...
Because that's also an external sometimes
thing.
That's
a great question. I think there will be times, part of life is that you're going to have to do things that are going to upset people sometimes, but people can read your heart, if they're sincere, they'll see that this person's trying to do the right thing, and then they might be upset at the current moment, but if you take time out to check on them afterwards, hey, this happened, I felt I had to do it, I felt it was the right thing, and my intention wasn't to hurt you. I wasn't trying to act out of pride. I wasn't trying to act out of ego. But my intention was, to serve everyone. Did I offend you? If so, I'm sure other people have thoughts on this too. Draupadi, Mother Kunti, Nrsimharupa.
Dealing with kids, they often want something they cannot have for their own safety, and they will feel very personally offended. So a situation like this, the first thing that comes to mind is you can put the situation before the person by, actually, it's still being about the person, but safety. Like I understand you're upset, but I did this for your safety, and I understand that you're offended, but that's okay. We can work on our relationship later. At least you're safe. And for the safety of others. Yeah, I understand you wanted to do that, but someone would have been hurt.
I second that motion.
I was just thinking it's not always easy, right? Because it's not black and white all the time. But but I fully agree that if you're really sincerely coming from a place of really trying to help the person, and I think also it really helps if there's some kind of a relationship in those situations. If I don't know somebody at all and then I just correct them or stop them from doing something, then it's really harsh because there's no love there. There's not a relationship that they know that I mean well, that I care for them, that I know them well. So I think, in those instances, if it's an emergency, if someone's going to get hurt, okay, of course you have to jump in and stop that. And there's time to do damage control afterwards. Kind of like, what is the higher principle in the moment? And if this is going to harm their spiritual life by me correcting them, then maybe we try to find some kind of creative solution and we pray to Krishna, because sometimes it seems like this is the way I have to do it, but there's generally alternative ways that we can do things that achieve the goal that we need to in that moment. So we hold on to those principles, but we don't necessarily have to hurt the person or discourage them at the same time. We just pray and try to use our intelligence, but it's not always easy. Yeah. There are times when it's necessary to
especially in management like you, it's like, there's gonna be someone who gets offended. It's unavoidable. So like you said, just pray and try your best. It's really all we can do. Okay. Abai, then Nanda Braj.
I think it's really profound, the idea of, we talk about Krishna consciousness. Sometimes it is stated places where if you just accept Krishna, then it means you don't have to worry about anything else. As long as you're doing Krishna, and the example we get of watering the root and everything else will be fed. But it's not so simple as in once you really start understanding what it means to be Krishna conscious, you realize it's in your actions all around. When you become conscious of your actions, you become conscious of Krishna, then become conscious of everybody around you. So it's not just that, I'm focusing on the deities, and so that's it, I'm done. I don't need to focus about Nanda Braj Prabhu or Nrsimharupa Prabhu. Those people are Krishna first. But it's really, once you understand what does Krishna want, once you understand what is Krishna's desires and you start feeling those, you realize his desire is that you treat everybody the same, whether it's somebody in a higher position, whether it's somebody equal, or whatever the term, whatever it looks like.
Yeah.
But And of course, that's the process. It's not like tomorrow, now I've heard Jishadumna Prabhu say these wonderful things, and now tomorrow I'm going to be the most perfect person. Always understanding that it's a process. There's an ideal. There's an ideal that, oh, I'm going to be the perfect person. I'm going to treat everybody with as much kindness as I can. And I know I'm in a position or whatever, and I'm not going to offend anybody. I'm going to do everything perfectly. But unfortunately, like you said, the world doesn't allow us to be perfect. That's because we're not, simply put. So the process is to follow that ideal of being Krishna conscious, and through that, we'll be aware of our surroundings and conscious of everything around us.
Thank you. Amazing point. That's it's described that it's kind of the barometer of your spiritual advancement. It said that the neophyte, they only see God in one place. Either they see God is up in the sky with like his long beard and in a cloud, or they see, oh, God is only on the altar. But the more advanced you become, the more you see God in everyone, the more you see God in all your situations. So it's a gradual process. Thank you for that wonderful point.
Well, Drissa, I really wanted to ask this question pretty badly, but I was really appreciating that you stopped in 8:15 to give us a nice long question and answer time and comments. And it's 8:30 exactly. So maybe instead of asking the question, I just say thank you. And
okay.
Absolutely. One thing we do after Srimad Bhagavatam is we go have breakfast, and it gives everybody a wonderful opportunity to talk amongst each other or talk to the speaker and churn it more. Churn Srimad Bhagavatam more.
Hare Krishna. Granta Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Not being like Daksha ki jai.
Rampavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hare Krishna. I forgot to mention earlier, we have pancakes this morning made by Vishnu Prabhu, Parmanitai Prabhu, Bhakti Ras, DT, who's visiting from New Jersey, and Chaitanya Charan and Nadia Bihari. So, Hari Bo. And then Mother Rasarani made nice khichdi and Mahaprasad for us. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Oh, and the maple syrup was sponsored by Ravi Prabhu. Hari Bo.
प्रभु नित्यानंद
Aha, Prabhu!